Ross, Jack, welcome to the podcast. It's so good to have you on with us today.
Thank you for having us.
I'm so pumped to talk about your parenting journey. For those listening, Ross and Jack are gay dads from the Yarra Valley in Victoria, and they have a beautiful 2-year-old Ollie, and they're also fabulous content creators. So I've been following you guys for quite some time now. I absolutely love everything that you're doing on Insta, and I'm so thrilled to have you on. I've always wanted to know more about your story as parents.
Yeah.
So let's start there, because I know we're expecting baby
one.
number 2.
Yeah.
Talk to us about it. How far along, and when are we expecting to get the bubs?
We're having a Halloween baby, so we're expecting a little monster to arrive, a little boy, which is exciting.
Yeah.
I think for any couple or singleton trying for a baby, everything comes with its own hurdles and complications. So, we were lucky enough to fall pregnant first time with Olivia, but trying to fall pregnant this time around wasn't.
Yeah, different surrogate, different experience.
Yeah.
We're 32 weeks now and counting down.
Oh
Ollie was born at 34 weeks. So
hoping he stays in there a little bit longer.
So just cook right up before you come out.
Anything could happen.
Yeah. So talk us through. So what was the experience like? You mentioned first time round with little Ollie. I believe that you got a surrogate in the States. You've done that both times around.
Yeah, international surrogacy.
Yeah. So because I feel like it's also. I actually spoke recently to Sean Zepps, who did a similar thing. But it is kind of it's becoming more common, which is fantastic, because obviously here in Australia it's not legal. The surrogacy industry, I believe, is not.
I think
it's legal in Victoria, but only
Okay.
altruistically. So
Okay.
it is
commercial.
generally
Not commercial, that's
sisters and
right.
girlfriends volunteering.
Yes.
But you can't cover things like lost work and, I think that's the beauty of the industry, especially in California as opposed to other parts of America.
Yes.
It's designed so that everybody wins.
Yeah.
There are lots of different stakeholders and
Yes.
everyone walks away happy.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the reason why we chose it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I shouldn't have used the wrong word. I didn't mean legal. Yeah, commercial, I guess, is,
exactly.
to your point. So
Which I think it should be. It should,
100%. It's options.
I think if they understood how much money it brings, not just to a surrogate, but to lawyers, insurance brokers, medical professionals, the fertility sector, it's, it could be amazing.
Absolutely.
And it gives other people a crack at having a family.
Absolutely, which is the most important thing.
Not everyone can afford to do this.
Oh, 100%. Did you guys always know you wanted to be parents?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we did look to adopt and foster within Victoria, but there's lots of red tape around being a homosexual couple and trying to get a baby, and it just didn't look like it was something that was going to happen for us.
And we wanted to do it while we were still young enough to, feel like we were in line with all of our friends who were also thinking about having kids at that time.
Yes.
A lot of the sort of discussions we had around adoption said, it may be possible, but it could be, 7 years, and you might get a 7-year-old kid. And we also selfishly didn't want to miss out on that first kind of chapter, that, really special time. So
we decided,
here we are.
Yeah, do it. But it took from the start. It's probably about a 3-year process, 2.5-year process before
transferring.
So we were in lockdown. We thought we were going to go to America, going to be able to deposit our sperm, do that in LA, then go to Mexico and have a lovely holiday. And obviously everything stopped for everybody. So we ended up freezing our sperm here and sending it by horse racing courier to America, which is
literally racehorse sperm courier. And because it was the only way to get it to America.
And it's at risk because you're not insured for your sperm to be alive when it arrives.
Right.
It's like a little motorised esky that they just chuck it, and we're watching as it's on the tarmac at LAX, and we're like, it's 28 degrees, it hasn't moved for 3 hours. What is happening?
Oh my
but
God.
Anyway, we did, and we created the embryos down in San Diego, and we had a successful transfer. We were pregnant with twins initially, so we had a twin for the first trimester who got a little tired
and tapped out. So that was sad at the time.
And then it was about a month before we were due to go to America. We're still in stage 500 lockdown. And we got a text message from our surrogate saying, I'm going to be induced tomorrow. You need to leave the country. And we're like, I can't leave my suburb.
Yeah, you can't even see your friend at the park, let alone try and get to...
Yeah.
But we already had permission to leave
we
the
had
country.
a provisional exemption.
Okay.
But
So it was actually harder to get to Sydney
than it was
for
to
our
actually leave the
flight,
country.
because there were no flights out of Melbourne.
Yeah.
That was the hardest bit.
Oh
And then, this was at 4 a.m, I think, that we got the text. And the first thing, we're like, well, we need to get a rapid test.
Yeah.
But nowhere was open till 7. So we're like,
Oh.
driving around Melbourne trying to find the earliest open centre, lobby to get our flight to Sydney, and then fly to America and drive down to Palm Springs. And she was born like 4 hours later.
So you made it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we made
Oh
it.
my God, literally got goosebumps then. Was that, talk about the time, what were you feeling when you were handed little Ollie?
I just feel like we were deranged.
We were deranged. It was like a massive. I felt like it was a massive night out.
40 hours.
Yeah, it was just like I was like,
We're
oh my
in a
God, I've had
different
this
country.
feeling from when I was 27 years old, and I was just like, because literally we had no sleep on the plane because as we were getting on the plane,
suitcases in the waiting room, and all of a sudden someone's like, "Would you like to meet your daughter?"
Yeah.
We're like, "Oh yes!" Like it was surreal.
Wow.
And I think we were so flustered and emotional and unprepared for that moment that we didn't know that we were going to be staying in the hospital. We didn't know if we were going to be present for the birth.
Yes.
We didn't know anything. And so it was just really making up on the fly. And I think we're still doing that, to be honest.
The beauty of the parenting journey.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So what's the plan? So will you guys stay in America for some time with this trip, or what's
2
your
months.
plan?
So we reckon we'll fly out 3 weeks before he's due. I reckon he's probably going to come a bit earlier than we anticipated. And then
there are a few steps after the birth. You go through the courts, and then we have to apply for citizenship and get a passport, and that just
and not everybody chooses to go down that route. They're doing international surrogacy.
No,
being
she's
an Australian.
entitled to an American passport. She has an American birth certificate. So we could get that, come back here and go through the courts. But I think last time we couldn't get another flight out of America. We were quite grateful not to be in our house anyway. And so we thought, let's just, give it a crack this way.
Yeah.
And we did, and it took us 7 weeks and then 2 weeks in hotel quarantine with a newborn, which
was actually quite fun.
Yeah.
I'm keen not to do
we
that
made
again.
We made the most of it.
We gave it our all and made it really fun. But I do not want to do that again.
Yeah, wow. I feel like, touch wood, that this is more of a seamless transition. Not looking for rapid
So
tests
far,
at
so good.
weird hours and trying to get on, lobbing to get on planes and things like that. Like what?
And we went to leave the hospital and the nurse sort of said, "Oh, it's a requirement. We need to check your car seat." And we're like, we
don't have a car seat.
Oh,
so
we didn't
Ross
have
was just
anything.
going to pop to Walmart and buy a car seat. We did not have a nappy, bottle, nothing.
Yeah,
because
'cause
we
you've come off a
literally just
plane.
threw everything in a suitcase and ran.
But even at the time when we were there, because it was such a sensitive time around the world, there was other children being born by surrogates where the intended parents couldn't even get into America, because at this point America had stopped certain countries from getting in, so these kids were being born
and going into the state system.
Or the surrogate was having to be paid to look after the kid, which they technically didn't sign up for that part. No, so it's
so complex that time.
Yeah.
I feel like we'll look back on that, when our kids ask us about the COVID days, and we'll be like, oh, still, dealing with the trauma. It was
and they'll just be like, "You're
very
so
hectic.
old and boring,
right?"
Like, who cares?
So coming back to Oz with a little one, what was one of the biggest challenges that you both felt you faced, particularly in those? I mean, Ollie's now 2-ish. Yeah. So what? Talk to us about that experience for you both.
I found all the pre stuff. I found that all the pre stuff challenging. I found challenging trusting someone else carrying the baby. I've learned a lot about myself that I thought I was quite cruisy and cool, but actually I was completely paranoid and worried. So I felt like, because it takes us a little while to have a baby, I felt there was so much stress and anxiety building up to the point that once she arrived, I feel like we kind of got our groove.
I think we're lucky to get a baby that eats, sleeps.
Yes.
I think we've probably had good karma in that way.
Don't say that.
Wait for number two.
Exactly.
You're coming back after you've had number 2, and we'll talk to
a good baby, and now one due on Halloween. We're expecting an absolute monster, but we deserve it.
Absolutely. Do you think as though, and I'm thinking about the same-sex couples listening who perhaps would love to have an experience like you and have a beautiful child, are there was there any challenges that you guys both faced that were more specific to, I guess, same-sex couples? Was there anything that sort of comes to mind?
No, I mean, I think the biggest hurdle is financial.
Yes.
It's not something that everyone can do.
What is it, if you don't mind, on average, you know, what are you looking at to get a surrogate?
Around 200.
Yeah.
I think there's other ways that you can do a lot more stuff by yourself.
Yes.
But I think if you were going to do international surrogacy in the US, you're probably looking at a figure around 200.
200 grand AUD. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. But then, you know, we've just tried to book our accommodation and the accommodation for 8 weeks around 20 grand.
Oh,
so we're both just like,
the dollar as well, right?
And flights and this and that.
car hire and all this other stuff. You're just like,
right.
But so it's the hustle's been on, but obviously once your kids arrive, none of that matters.
But there's I mean, you experience elements of homophobia and stuff, but that happens anyway. That's you know, it thankfully doesn't happen all the time. Yeah. But I don't think that sort of stood in the way of our parenting journey so far. It just occasionally pops in and you get rid of it.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned that. I mean, we all experience a level of judgment on Instagram and things like that because we've got, you know, the beauty of the public being able to have opinions about all of our lives, right?
Yeah.
How do you handle the trolls, the keyboard warriors? Are we blocking and deleting them? Are we getting upset by the comments?
You could probably see them. It's quite funny. But one of them the other day had a pop at Jack, and it's just like it's so funny that someone that follows someone that's commented on our post doesn't follow us. So they go on to look at our content, see what we're doing.
Tell me I have hideous pants and then leave.
Yes.
That you could probably be okay with. I feel like the ones that would really torment me, and fortunately today, touching wood, hasn't come up, but I'm anticipating it, is attacks on perhaps being a parent or my parenting.
We have had that. We did a campaign for Father's Day last year with a big retailer. Yeah. And they posted on their channel and it was the burn in hell faggot.
Yeah, it was
that poor child.
It was horrendous.
They ended up having to pull it down and block the comments and get a mediator and all that kind of stuff because it was actually out of control.
And you could see people like
there was also
sticking up for us. So there was like all these, it was going back and forth. Yes. And we don't really, to be honest, we kind of just live our life and do our own little thing. It's actually our friends saying, "Oh, guys, have you seen this? We got it sent to us." We kind of just live our own little bubble.
Emotional about it.
Yeah, they get upset by it.
Yeah,
we just brush it off.
You don't let it bother you.
No,
That's great.
Idiots are idiots.
Yeah, totally. You'll never change anyone's opinion, and this is what I think I remind myself as well. Like you can try to give your reasoning to something that you're like trying to educate to some extent, but then half the time you're like, why am I going to bother? It's not going to get me anywhere. Like, what's the point? But I think that's great because I think often I think if you get me on a bad day and I read something and it's triggering, today's a good day, but it's triggering, I can really let it get to me. That's why I was just curious as to how you guys deal with it. But
I think when they kind of go. When they went for Ollie, and I just think like, no, I don't. Yeah,
Papa Bear's being a bit like,
I probably get. I've got the South London in me. Probably comes straight out. I was like, don't give me a drink. I was like, I'm going for it there. I was like, bless her. I was like, if she gets to school and gets any stick, I'll be like, Papa Bear straight out.
But just try and brush it aside. For the most part, though.
Have you already sort of started thinking about, I mean, you mentioned school, right? If something, and their generation, our kids' generations is such a different generation to when we even grew up. There's so many more same-sex couples having children. It's fantastic. And just everyone's a lot more open in general. But do you think, and I asked this because, again, when I was speaking to Sean, he mentioned this as a little bit of an insecurity in himself, that at some point, kids might say, well, where's your mummy, right? Do you have a mum? And he's like, he's really sort of worded up his kids around, well, if they say that, this is how you communicate. Have you guys thought about that at all? Or do you have any little insecurities that you're like, okay, I'm going to make sure that I word up my child around that topic?
Yeah, you've spoken about this.
It's definitely something we've thought about a lot. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily something I worry about a lot. It's sort of, I think it's our responsibility to make sure that she never feels like she's missing out on mothering. Yeah. But it's always going to come from us. I mean, the reality of it is not everyone gets a mum or a dad. there are all different types of ways to create a family, and fundamentally the kid needs love, and it doesn't matter who it comes from, and we'll just be open, and we are already. I mean, there was a kid at daycare who Ross walked in, oh, that's Ollie's dad, and then I walked in and he was like, oh, yeah.
Oh,
and, you know, you've got two dads, and he was just kind of like, oh, squirrel.
Yes.
Whatever.
Yes.
And there'll, I'm sure, be moments.
There's going to be moments, but also we've got an incredible family with strong women, and you know,
she'll have good role
Jack's mum
models.
is plays an active role in helping us with Ollie and your sister and my mum, and it's just.
There's a tribe.
If there's a tribe there, and if she feels like she needs to lean on that femininity more, then she's definitely got that.
Yeah.
Mine was like, we love that we've moved to the Yarra Valley and we love living our life. But my biggest thing is, it's great for us and we love it. Is it going to be okay for our kids? Like we thought, is
two gay blokes with a mixed race baby going to sit here will be, you know, the only ones in town. Meanwhile, gay doors two doors down from us.
Really?
They've got twins, so we were just like, we're not the only gays in the village.
There's at least one of them. Fine.
Yeah. So is it sort of at the moment you don't see yourself moving for the?
Love it.
Yeah,
we love it. Like we've still got our house in Fitzroy, but like, and you know, living in Fitzroy, anything goes.
Yes.
But no, we really hope that it works out for our family and it's magic and they have a great time.
We've been really welcomed and we're enjoying just a different kind of life out there at the moment.
Yeah, love that.
And Ollie loves being with the animals, so it's just and it's lovely to see. She's feeding the sheep.
Yes, it's such a beautiful place to grow, you know, for children to grow up in. So much endless space. I mean, I'm in South Yarra with a courtyard. Like, I have to take my kids to a park,
but that was
you know, like
Fitzroy.
right? Like it's a different dynamic. Curious as well. The mental load, that is a huge thing for a lot of particularly newer parents because they're like, Jesus, I went from like, what are we having for brunch on a Sunday and where are we going to like, OMG, I have like all these things on my on my to-do list. How do you guys balance out the mental load?
I think we're very...
Tequila?
But there's just like a natural Bluetooth, I reckon, when you have a baby that you can see like Leonie needs a fucking break.
Yes.
I'm just going to take the baby and we'll be back in an hour or so. And I think occasionally you just need a bit of a reset.
Yeah.
And we're good at
communicating. And like for me, the perfect example is I thought I partied hard back in the day and I thought, when our baby arrives, I'll nail these night feeds.
Yeah.
And actually when she arrived, I struggled with the night feeds. Like I'd feed her and she was awake because she was prem every 90 minutes, so we had to wake her up. And her tummy was tiny and it just wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
But then I'd put her back, but then Jack's got the gift. I'm so jealous of people that can actually just go back to sleep. I don't have that gift. Yeah. So then 90 minutes later, I was still awake. He's snoring. She's screaming. And I'm like...
I don't snore.
Yeah. And I was just like, I'm finding this really challenging. So then instantly we just flipped it up and Jack was like, I'm going to do the night feed. You take, because I'm a morning person. He goes, you take her from 4 a.m. So then Jack could sleep until 7. And all of a sudden...
you play to your strengths.
We had this little dynamic going, which like, I struggled.
Yes.
Jack's like, I've got this.
Yep.
And that's kind of worked for us. I think we've kind of just said what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah. I mean, you'd speak to more parents. My personal feeling is no one knows what they're doing.
No.
You don't know what kind of kid you're having. No. It's all reactive. And, you know, when you identify whether it's a problem or... you know, a change in behaviour, it's just like, okay, well, logically, what do I think is going to work? We'll try that, didn't work, try this, and, you know, who's the best person for it?
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest piece, who's the best person for it and communicating that between each other. Because I mention it because a lot of the time, on average, the birth mother feels as though if they're in a heterosexual couple that she has more of the burden of the things
and that's been a really interesting thing for us.
And
we hit the ground running. There's no recovery and there's also no onus on me as opposed to Ross. Like, you get up or you go over here or you do this. Like, it can be a really efficient load sharing sort of situation because... I mean, I really sympathise with we've got a girlfriend at the moment who's having had a traumatic birth and is having a bit of trouble breastfeeding and just feels like the world is getting smaller. And, you know, I think that's really a difficult position to start in when it should be something you're able to celebrate and enjoy because it's an incredible time of your life.
If that's something you want to do, you want to feel like you can breastfeed and you can, like, when you hear this cry or scream from your baby, you want to be able to comfort them. No, we were lucky in that respect.
But I also think, like, honouring the fact that you both feel as though you're, you know, equals in this, in that it's both of your responsibilities to really bring up this child, which is, I think, one of the complexities sometimes that when I'm speaking to couples, you know, there's that feeling of like, you should be able to read my mind, but, you know, but I've got to work and I've got this. I mean, even just speaking about work, like, how did you determine who was going to go back to work and things like that?
I've always wanted to be the primary carer. So definitely for that initial period, my hand was right up for it.
And my head runs at a million miles an hour. So I knew that, like, I have my full-time job. We have Instagram. We raise that kids. So
I was expecting to go back to more work. I mean, the Instagram thing is something that is still even quite new for us, but it has meant that I haven't had to go back to full-time work. So, you know, I definitely signed up for the initial period and then it sort of got to the point a few months ago where, am I really going to go back just for 3 months, 4 months and then have another baby? So we've stretched it out and I think, you know, maybe when our boy is at the same age that Ollie's at, it'll be time for a rethink about, you know, what's next for me. But really, I think it was pretty black and white from the start because I really wanted to do it and Ross made more money. So
and probably maybe Ross as well enjoyed the mental stimulation of perhaps going back to work and then coming back in.
I've got the best of both worlds, right? My full-time job is hybrid, so I work from home. And then we have Instagram, so we get to be at home. And, like, because of COVID, COVID was great for our family because it just meant that we could earn money, stay at home, and I was present in our daughter's life where not everybody has that luxury. So I've never not been there. Sometimes it's hard. Like when we decided to move from Fitzroy to the Yarra Valley, we took her out of daycare, and then we thought, we'll easily get her into daycare once we move. No, we're on 7 lists. She wasn't in daycare for 6 months.
Oh my goodness!
And then trying to do a Teams call, trying to do something, and you can hear the screens in the background. You're on mute and you're smiling in the camera, and you're just like texting Jack saying, "Take her outside to the garden now." Like it's like
the realities.
The realities. Right? You're just like you're like, oh my goodness. But we make it work. And
Do you ever think about? Did you ever hesitate in putting so much of your lives and now it's going to be children's lives, you know, on Instagram, for example, in such a public forum? Were either of you ever hesitant with how much to share?
Yeah, definitely. We have thought about it, and I think there'll come a time when Ollie needs to have her say in it. Whenever, you know, sit here, do this, do that. It's, I think the style of content that we make is mainly based around what we would ordinarily be doing.
It's lifestyle, isn't it?
So, you know, I think she will have a say, and at any point if she says, like, I don't no longer want to do this, then that's totally up to her, of course. But otherwise, I think, you know, I think we're still learning though. Like I think we share our life, to Jack's point, and we're doing what we would do on a daily basis. But we're both just like, will this last? We'll just go as long as people are interested, and we get so many gorgeous messages and people saving recipes and that. We're just like, we love to cook, we love to eat, we love to drink, and you know, we feel like Ollie. Our content's not necessarily around just us about parenting. It's a mixture of farming. It's us.
It is you guys, 100%.
And she is a part of us, but it's, you know, it's not a baby page.
Yes, 100%. Where did the cooking come into it? Because I've noticed so many posts recently with the recipes and things like that. Talk us through it. How did that come about?
Well, the page was beauty first. It was my makeup page, and then my old PR manager. While we were going through the surrogacy, she started talking about your journey. I was like, oh no, no, I can't. No, I can't. Because obviously doing makeup, you do it on somebody else, but also you're sharing your life.
Yeah.
And then I think once we started doing that, we went to Palm Springs and we saw how invested people were of what we were going through.
And remember, like in Melbourne, lockdown, people were sort of enjoying this good news story of like they got out and like they're having a baby, and all of a sudden, I think the cooking stuff happened almost accidentally. We are big cooks.
Yeah.
But we did it.
We just put one up, virtually a story of like, oh, we're cooking a chicken. And people are like, oh, I want more. I want to see this. I want to do that. But
we love, but as a couple, we love cooking. Like that is our thing during the week. We always think, what are we going to do? What are we going to do next? Like in hotel quarantine, we ended up getting in this like delicious dinner coming in, and we ended up getting like the bathroom towels and made them into napkins. And we did this we set this gorgeous table up and we did it. And that went off in hotel quarantine. Yeah. And I think it's just us. And now, I think it's organic. This is why I'm this size now.
You don't get here by saying no.
It's like, all right, then we'll give that a go. Definitely. Yeah.
You guys look fabulous. How do you make time for each other? Because parenting is all consuming.
Early bedtime for her.
Yeah, right. Yes. Yeah.
Which is changing now. She's starting to need to be up later, but that's always been
6 o'clock on the dot.
Oh, 6.
It was like, see you later, babe.
Yeah.
We're
having dinner. We're having our time.
We need to sit down and cook and eat and talk and then mong in front of the TV or whatever you want to do.
Yes.
But I think, and also we've, daycare days. Occasionally we just go out for a really nice lunch and still try and do something that, is what we would have ordinarily done. Like we haven't had a holiday since she was born really, because we're trying to get baby 2 on the ground first.
But we've been totally chill about getting babysitters, Peas in the Pod. They're an amazing agency in Melbourne, and we've been like, let's do this. Daddy's date night. We're going out. Instagram's great because we get if we go to an event, then we tap on a dinner at the end of it.
Yes.
So I feel like we do.
Try and make space for who you were as a couple pre-baby, and then celebrate who you are as a little family now as well.
Yeah,
it's even more important because we're working together as
well. That's
together.
right.
I just love it when I'm editing the videos. You're just like, oh wow, we're really passive aggressive to each other. It was like,
just get that double chin out of the frame.
It was like, stretch a little bit there.
Tummy.
Jack, I'm losing my hair there. Don't get that. And I'm just like, edit that out.
I love it. And it's interesting. And I guess I asked the question as well because often, once we have little bubs, we can often feel very tapped out and very just exhausted and everything.
Knackers.
Right. And so couples can often lose themselves, particularly in those first couple of months because you're just surviving.
Also, better, like you said it before, is like we weren't recovering. Like we went to Joshua Tree, like when she was like 2 weeks old. We got up at 4 a.m. and the amount of backlash that we got, we were like, can't believe you're taking her to the desert. And I was like, we've got water. We've hired a brand new car. We're fine. She's fine. We're having a rock star. We just wanted to go and see the sunset and play some nice tunes and just watch it together. And it was funny that the little backlash.
And we went to the gallery when she was like, I can't believe you'd even take her outside. And we're like, I can't believe you are writing that.
Yeah, and why do you care, mate?
Yeah.
And also, I feel like the younger they are, the easier it is.
Oh, babe,
much easier. Like, don't take a toddler's a different.
I understand why there's so much.
She'd just be like throwing this, throwing that.
Right?
But back then, it was dreaming.
Yes,
like 20 hours a day, anywhere.
Yes.
And I think that's been an interesting sort of discovery that toddlers are twice as hard.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Ollie turned 2, and then that week of her turning 2, I said, she's broken.
Yeah.
She's broken.
What happened?
Was that she was good, now she's broken. Then this week
and she's out of warranty. Like, she's out. Like, no back.
Can we send her back?
Yeah. What is your refund policy?
It's so funny. Last week she was just crying everywhere on the grass. Babe, it doesn't get better.
But for no reason. Hadn't been told no or asked for something, didn't get it. Like,
just no reason. The sun's shining. You've got your toys. You've got everything, babe. Relax.
It's just these micro emotions. Like it goes from total euphoria to like you're grieving. It just every 2 minutes it's a different personality.
They literally keep us on their toes, on our toes, don't they? How are you feeling? Are you kind of, I guess it's hard to like mentally prepare yourself for like another new addition in the family, right? Like, have you sort of thought about how you're going to deal with that, even from like, will life just kick on, work kicks on, everything's the same? Or are you going to,
I'm really excited. I think Ollie now having a bit of autonomy and, you know, Miss Independence, I'm excited for that like needy, squishy, tiny thing again.
Yes.
And I think I'll be just more aware this time of, you know, everyone says it goes so fast, but it does.
It does.
And, you know, at that first sort of 6 months, every week there's something new that you've noticed or that they've achieved or maybe not.
Mine's making sure that she's fine. Like obviously being a same-sex couple, we don't have there's a baby in here, we're growing, this is your brother or sister.
Yes.
So every time we pick up our neighbour's baby or friend's baby, Ollie's like, no.
My dada.
Bless
So we keep trying to tell her that baby's coming, looking at the app. So she's getting there.
Yeah.
But I'm sure once she meets him, she's going to love it. But I want her to not make sure the world still revolves around her.
Yes, it is
There's just a special edition coming along.
Yes, and I think that's great, like just to be mindful of anyway, right? I mean, I had my two were 18 months apart. I think, to be fair, the 18-month-old was probably a bit young, so it was kind of like, you know, all over the place. By about 2-ish, they're kind of probably a little bit more, they get it. But I think what would be so beautiful as well is like seeing her step up into the big sister role and like witnessing that as well. Like it's, super cute. But to your point, I was very mindful that even the whole family was like, make sure we have attention to the, you know, to the toddler because, it tends to go to the newborn just because they're so much more needy, right? What advice would you give to the same-sex couples listening around is there anything in particular in your journey that when you look back at, you may have been stressed out about, now you look at it and go, oh, like that was a big lesson. Just don't stress about the little things. Like, you know, what comes to mind?
I think that mine would just be speak to as many people as often as you can. I think that it's an industry that is changing by the minute.
Yeah.
There are different laws in different states, let alone countries. Yeah. And you need to speak to people who are doing it right now. And so, I mean, we found the most interesting way to get in contact with people was through Instagram.
Yeah,
but other same-sex dads, they really helped us with paperwork, agencies. Like we wouldn't have got our agency. We wouldn't have
don't do this. Go here. Speak to that person. This doctor's better or lawyer's better. Or
their success rate's this. And it's like,
you can get a passport faster if you go here.
Right.
I would encourage, I mean, someone who I went to school with but haven't spoken to in quite a long time was in touch yesterday and I flicked across all of the things we work to, but said, speak to as many people as you can because by the time you get to this point, that might have changed.
Yes.
Like, you just need to keep going and talking about it. And don't be scared to reach out to total strangers. That's how we got our best advice. And how we are now distributing what we've learned is just people go onto Ross's page and say, hey, thinking about this, do you have any hints? And it's a really open community, I would say.
I love that.
I just think as a couple or a singleton, if you wanted to do international surrogacy, it is a 2-year. Like, so you're thinking, we're not ready yet.
Just start.
Because either getting the sperm, making embryos, doing the genetic testing, just there's so many other bits and pieces before you even get to the transfer. And one of my mates was telling me that there's a 12-month wait list for a surrogate in the US. So it's just...
And also, like, modern fertility is incredible, but there are no givens.
That's true.
Like, it just is what it is. So if there's anything that you can lock down or nail straight away, even if it's as simple as making sure that your sperm works, for example, just do it. You don't need to have a baby yet, but if that's something that could create another hurdle, why not eliminate it?
I know it's hard because you're just like, it's quite pressure, but I just think like it's time. And I think just get
the ball rolling.
Get the ball rolling. Save the money.
Yes. No, I love that. I ask all of our guests this last question.
Yes.
So, how has parenthood changed you as a person?
I don't know about that one.
I don't
About
You know
10
what?
kilos?
Yeah, 10 kilos.
I'm not sure where it is, but
10
okay.
kilos and a few lines.
I think before I lived in the moment, and I was saying before I was a free spirit, and then when we fell pregnant, I learned that I was quite impatient, and I didn't think I was very controlling. But then I was like, oh shit, I'm actually control. And now I'm like, I'm projecting what's happening in the future, what's happening for our family. Where before I was just like, I'm just happy being in the moment. Where now I feel like, what are we doing as a family? What's our end game? Where do we want to be? And I'm constantly probably having discussions with Jack. And I've never been, that's probably for me.
I think you also just see the world differently.
Yes.
Like watching the way that Ollie, makes anything into a toy or makes anything feels like a miracle. You start to then notice little things because you're trying to point them out to her.
Yes.
So I think it does sort of change your... I don't know.
But as a couple, I think I still think probably brought us close. Well, it's obviously brought us closer together, but we're still doing what we're doing, and she's our little bestie. So we're just like, we've probably got quite a relaxed approach to parenting though. Like everybody's like, hey, are you doing the nursery? We're like, no. Have you got this ready? We're like, nah, we'll just get that there.
Yeah.
There's no baby list for us. Like we're like minimal stuff. Everything you can buy from a shop if you need it.
Well, that's the thing. It's a good way to be. Like, I mean, I had a spreadsheet the first time round. I was like ticking things off, and it's like got all crazy about it.
I virtually threw my laptop out the window when I sent one of those. It's terrifying.
Right? Honestly.
Like pebbles for the baby, for your grandparents, for this.
And for a first-time parent, it's the worst thing that you could get. Because you're just like, you actually don't need all of these.
No.
And we're in America with no help and had nothing because it was such short notice. Yeah. But we did it.
Yes. Shops are still open,
We're not the first people. There are 6 billion of us.
Yeah.
Like it is possible to do it with a lot less.
Yes.
I just reckon chuck your baby list in the bin.
Yeah, 100%. I agree now. But I also think, my first time baby self would probably have been like, but I need to hold on to something.
And it's so cute. And it's only $100.
So exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Thank you so much, guys, for coming on. I am so excited to see your new addition. And all the best with the trip to the States as well. Love chatting to you.
Lovely.
Thank you
so much for having us. Really appreciate it.